Thank you for joining us today. This is Paul Whitley with CEO Talks. We're sitting here with Chris and Stephen, and we're going to be talking about roofing companies today. And we're going to talk about how they can help you from an individual standpoint or your commercial standpoint. C-Suite Support. See, that's a company that is fractional CFOs, accountants, controllers, things that can come into your company and help you take care of your financial needs, be it borrowing money from the bank, getting your financials in shape to where you know how to run your company better, your key performance indicators. What do you need to do better in your company? What is your profit per product? What is your profit per company, per job? How do you measure yourself to make sure that you're better? So that's C-Suite Support. We also are a network group that about 340 people that are CXOs of all type. CMOs, CHROs, COOs, CEOs, board members, and we also have about half of the group is B2B companies to where we can bring people in to help you. Today I'm talking with another company that we brought in a little lady by the name of Paula Calise with Executive Link Search. She was recognized in the top 10 in the U.S. for her search firm and top number 1 in the state of Texas. I've got a client that needs to hire a high-level individual. I'm bringing in Paula Calise as my referral. She's come through on several people for several of my clients. She's earned the right for me to give her a referral. I don't refer people because I like them. I refer people because they do a good job, bring people in to take care of the job, and then I like them. So I guess I do refer people I like. But C-Suite Support, CFOs, fractional CFOs, if you can't afford one, don't want to spend the kind of money that's necessary for that, or don't need a full-time CFO, but you need the kind of help and guidance to build your business, to go out and expand the business. We're very unique in the fact that we're in all aspects of your company that you want to engage us into. So we help you with your expenses. We help you with the alignment of your company, your profitability, as well as loans. And if you desire, we also help in your revenue stream to help you grow your business. So today we're speaking with Chris. Chris is with 100% Construction Company.
Yes, sir.
And Chris does roofing. And there's probably not a person that's going to be watching this today that hasn't heard the horror stories of someone that is sitting in the past that knows you've either had a bad job, you've been referred to somebody that didn't do a good job, you didn't know who you're referring, and then with the state of Texas, we're constantly going through all of these changes with weather changing, et cetera, to where we have the opportunity to go find someone. I've got somebody in my neighborhood today came out and asked for a referral. So what in the world makes 100% Construction Roofing Company different? Why would I want to call you? Why would I want to refer you? Let's start from there.
Yeah, I would say the simple answer on that is it's our commitment to people. And it's not just our commitment to our customers, it's our commitment to our team, our subcontractors, everybody who has any sort of a part of business with us. It's making sure that everything is done perfectly and making sure that everybody's taken care of as well as possible. So it obviously all starts in the office, and it's a part of that dedication to our team is training, right? And that's one of the biggest problems that I see in roofing in North Texas or Texas in general, is the barrier to entry is so low that typically what we see is people go hire a bunch of people, they don't train them adequately, and then they go out and they either give bad advice, God forbid they tell people to replace roofs that don't need to be replaced, and then people end up spending money unnecessarily, or they just do a really bad job and then you can't get somebody to come back and all that. So all the things that you just covered, I've heard the horror stories, and I've unfortunately been called to fix a lot of the horror stories, so trust me, I know them well.
I bet you have. I also want to mention I have a character here by the name of Stephen Guilford today. Guilfold. Well, will you let me by with that?
Well, here's the thing. It's a tough name. Blame my parents. It's their fault.
Yeah, name that label on you. He's a CEO of Affordicare. Affordicare is insurance that every company needs. It's health insurance. And I've referred Steve into several of my clients, and he's been very successful going in, reducing their costs, giving them better coverage, better situations. If you want to know more about Steve, you can watch one of our other podcasts to get that. But for just a minute here, Steve, tell us about Affordicare.
Well, it would have been called 110% construction just to give you some competition. But he's been so good, I don't even want to compete with it. But we actually work with a lot of and actually how we met was we work with a lot of independent contractors that have businesses that want to offer benefits to their subcontractors or part-time people and maybe aren't big enough. And so they use us for those solutions. And so far, no complaints on us or on their end. So thank you for having us on, Paul. It's nice to have you, even though if you don't know my name. So.
Well, I kind of stumbled there, but I got it. One of the things with my clients, most of them just have employees, but several of them do have contractors. And, contractors are people out there that want to have a grown-up job. Having a grown-up job means you go to work, you get paid, you take care of your family, but they also want to have insurance. And most companies don't have the ability, don't have the desire to take care of that kind of insurance, and it's a golden handcuff. If my company can provide you insurance and you can't get that insurance anywhere else for anywhere close to the cost, then you're going to stay with me rather than going somewhere else if I can provide that. So it's one of those nice things that's an extra benefit. So
yeah.
I can see how what you do can help Chris, but help a lot of people that are going to be watching this show. So moving from there, Chris, I heard what you said about this is what we do, this is why we want to do it. I've heard that from a lot of people. Tell me more about what that means. What does it mean of your culture? I've heard you talk about your culture. I've been involved in knowing about your culture. I want you to tell me and tell the audience out here why your company has a different culture than what most of those roofing companies are going to have.
Yeah, so that's a lot to unpack. I don't know, we might take the whole 30 minutes on that because it's something that I care pretty deeply about. So I guess in a nutshell, what I would say about our culture is really simple, and it's one of our biggest differentiators as well. Every day when every person who's a W-2 employee shows up to the 100% offices, we show up with one goal in mind, and that's how can we take care of the people around us. I'm obsessed with creating opportunity. Like that's what makes my gears turn. That's all I think about. And if you ask anybody at the company what role I play, it's not necessarily CEO, it's not, sales training, it's creating opportunities. And I've been very fortunate that everybody that we've brought on the team feels the exact same way. So the culture is we want to take people from where they are to where they want to be. And my main goal as a business owner is to give people the opportunity to go from where they are to where they want to be. Matter of fact, one of the things that I say in every one of the interviews when I bring somebody on is I want you to understand that in the event that you start here and you work up through the ranks, right? You start as a residential guy and then you move into specialty systems or commercial systems or multifamily, whatever the opportunity is, that you can make a substantial amount of money. You can be a commercial sales guy and take home $1 million a year, right? But in the event that you outgrow the company and you've been with us for 5 or 6 years and you come to me and you say, I've capped out here, I want to leave, don't come to me and have that conversation like you're angry. Come to me and say, hey, I've done everything here and I want more. And if that's the case and you truly have capped out at the company, I'll sit down and help you write a business model and help you fund your next project. Because my job isn't to keep you here. My job isn't to make you work here forever. My job is to create opportunities until I can't do it enough, and then if you move on, you move on. So it's truly about giving people opportunity, not about them making us money. And that's the way our entire kind of C-suite, if you will, feels about it.
Well, I've seen roofing companies take advantage of some of the things that have happened in North Texas.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the tornadoes, we've got the wind situation, hail. I mean, you name it, North Texas has the trifecta of the items that can happen to us.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what brings this area into light in your particular business, so much more for the good, but also for the bad. And we talked earlier about what is your process for making sure you got somebody that you can trust out on a job. And I know I'm teeing this up very comfortably for you, but it's what you really do. This is not what I want to hear or what somebody's listening to this to hear. I want to tell me what you really do to have your employees be what somebody's going to want to be on their property, on their house, working with them, and when they leave, everything is like it's supposed to be.
We have a incredibly complex interview process that's very atypical from the rest of the people in the roofing industry.
I mean, I tried 3 times, I didn't get hired. So.
We won't hire them. we won't hire them. No, I mean, typically what you find in a roofing company is if somebody will apply, and like I said earlier, if they can fog a mirror, they have a job. And then they go through what I like to call the used car sales model, right? Do you have friends, family, or neighbors that live in this area that you can go and see if they need roof installs, and they make it a requirement of that person that they just hired without an interview process, or maybe it was a group interview. Get 50 people in a room, do a rah-rah dance, get a lot of people really excited, and just see who sticks, right? And then what ends up happening is they go to their mom, their dad, their uncle, brother, sister, whoever it might be. They inspect the roof, turns out that they need it, and they go, look, this would really help me, can I replace this roofing system? And because they're family or friends or, the 8th grade basketball coach or whatever it might be, they let them do that. And then by the time they do that, they've gotten a handful of jobs off of those people. And then if those people don't cut it when they just get tossed to the wolves, they get cut and they bring in a new batch of 50 people and they do it all over again. And to put it simply, that's kind of disgusting to us, right? Because it's, in my opinion, it's kind of extorting people for their relationships. So instead, what we do is we have a pretty stringent hiring process where we come in, we have multiple interviews. Every single candidate who gets hired at our company they sit down with me for a minimum of 45 minutes. It's usually an hour, and we go over everything. We talk about life experiences. We talk about what your childhood was like. I want to know you as a person. So much so that I don't even necessarily care about your prior work experience. I want to know your commitment to excellence. I want to know your commitment to self-improvement. I want to know your commitment to doing the right thing for the right reasons. And then if somebody passes the kind of background check of why they do what they do, how they do, then they have an opportunity to come through our training. From that point, we've got a 4-day proprietary training system that 100% of the content was built by somebody or myself on my team. And we take people from no industry knowledge to be able to have educated, well-understood conversations with homeowners or business owners in that 4 days. Then we assign them to a team lead who is directly over making sure that they're doing things the right way. They're checking all of their paperwork. They're going with them on their initial inspections, consultations, whatever part of the process it's in. They have somebody glued to their side until they get out of that training process. Once they get out of there and they're on their own, we still check up on them with the team leads, and we still go and see if they need any assistance. So our commitment to our personnel is I'm going to say unmatched to 99% of the industry, because we're always there. It's always continuous improvement. We're always training. We're always making sure that people are having a better understanding and a better knowledge base of exactly what they're doing and what they're trying to accomplish. And the biggest thing that I think is a difference is when we hire somebody, I've got a vested interest in that person. When we do have to let somebody go because they're not performing, that's a big deal to us. A lot of people just turn and burn employees or subcontractors, and they just, as many people in, as many people out, and that's not the way we operate. We have a vested interest in every single person who walks through the door and is a part of our team.
How do you get to your customer base? What is your process of putting your name out there, getting to the customer that needs the service? What's your referral base? How would I get to you if I was looking for a roofer and wanted a quality roofer that had good references? I mean, I know that's a tee-up question, but how do you do it?
We're primarily word of mouth. I mean, when I got started in this industry, I worked for some not great characters, which is why I ended up starting my own company. And when I started mine, I decided that I was going to do it different from everybody that I had worked for or worked with. So what that meant was I went to realtors and insurance agents and I sat down with them and said, tell me your horror stories. Tell me what's happened so badly and during a transaction that you lost clients over it. And my mindset there was, if somebody can act so poorly that you actually lose clients, say an insurance agent refers a roofer, the roofer shows up and the homeowner calls 2 or 3 days or a week later and says, this guy you sent is terrible, or whatever words they use, and I'm going to XYZ Insurance, I'm leaving you forever, right? Obviously, as an insurance agent, you don't want that to happen. So I sat down with a couple pretty high-profile insurance agents and said, tell me the worst storage you've ever had. From there, we sat down and we kind of reverse engineered that process and said, okay, well, if they did that, these 5 or 6 things so poorly, well, if we can figure out how to do those things perfectly, then not only can we help you retain clients, but the goal is we can actually help you bring on new clients by doing the job for your clients so well, and then passing all of that all of the appreciation along to the insurance agent. So I'll tell them, look, when we met, we guaranteed a 5-star experience, and would you agree that we met or exceeded that expectation? And obviously the answer should be yes. When the answer is yes, it's, well, I want you to know, as much as I take pride in that, the only reason I had the opportunity to meet you is because your agent, whoever it was, takes the time to weed out contractors until they find somebody like ourselves who take this level of pride in their work. And they also do it for, if you get an offender bender, if you have a broken bone, or whatever they do insurance for. And we started that way. And then I did the same thing for real estate professionals. And we basically developed a system for our real estate where we have a system set up that we can almost guarantee that you won't slow down or lose a closing date, because when that house fails inspection, we're going to come in, we're going to take care of everything extremely quickly, even if that means that the payment is deferred until after the closing has taken place. We're not going to wait. We're not going to make you wait until the checks come in, because, as you know, sometimes the mortgage companies hold on to them, or they get lost in the mail, or whatever it is. I want to make sure that as a real estate professional, you don't spend any time past your original closing date, because in my opinion, that's a really big lost opportunity cost. Any minute that you spend on a house past the original closing date is a time that you could have met somebody else. You could have met a single family home buyer, or you could have met an investor who wants to buy 250 houses over the next 5 years. And if you don't have that opportunity because you're spending time doing something that you shouldn't be doing, working past closing, then that's a lost opportunity. So we specialize in making sure that doesn't happen.
Well, I want to try to tie that into another segment of anybody that's watching this that's in the real estate business, that's in the insurance business. That aspect is something that probably every single one of them wants to know about. They probably have all sat in that same seat, that same chair, and had the same experience that you're talking about. Those out there that are listening to this, that are in that capacity, if you haven't already done that, you probably have, but here's another opportunity to find someone that fits in your category. So that's one of the things I want you to talk about just a little bit further. How would you get to, here's an agent, talk to that agent, great. How do you get into the owner of that agency to get in and talk to all of his people? I know, and this is where I'm going to bring you back in. We have companies that we work with interactively that are mortgage companies. They under one of the bigger mortgage companies here in town is in our network group. How do we get you into those agencies, and then what do we expect to have from you when you get in there? We want our word endorsing you, coming back to us of what a great guy you've got, what a great company.
So typically that's just explaining the value proposition that we have to offer, which is if you hand us the ball, it's going to be a touchdown every time, right? There's never going to be a fumble. There's never going to be an opportunity where you lose a client because somebody from our company dropped the ball like so many people do. We have an extremely detailed list of exactly how those transactions have to take place. If an insurance agent calls me and says, hey, I've got a customer and they need X, Y, and Z, there's a very strict checklist that needs to be met. And if somebody doesn't have the ability to check those boxes in the time frames and the time parameters that we set in place, then they don't have the ability to take those customers on. We make sure that only the people who have the availability to give that 5-star service and that can deliver on those time constraints that we set in place are the ones that get to do those. So initially, to meet those agents, it was just good old-fashioned cold door knocking. It was just going around and, hey, do you have somebody that works on roofing for you? And some people say yes, some people say no. And the people who say yes, look, I get it. You've got a business relationship, and I'm not looking to knock off your number one guy. But put me in your Rolodex as a backup. And in the event that he's out of town or he's sick or, God forbid, gets in an auto accident, he can't make it, give us a shout and give us a chance, right? And typically when people take us up on that, the first time that we get a friend, family, or neighbor call them and say, hey, your roofer did my house, they said it was such a great experience, can you quote my policy? We just kind of end up stepping into that number one spot because nobody does that. Nobody actually does business so well that it brings in free money in the way of friends, family, and neighbor referrals coming in. And once somebody sees it one time, they don't call anybody else.
All right. Well, I'm going to take you back a little bit.
Okay.
Let's go back to how did you get started in this business? Why is a guy that was going to law school is doing roofs?
Well, I'll correct you there. I wasn't going to law school. So I was in oil and gas offshore for 10 years. So you ever seen the big drill ships that cruise around the ocean and pop holes in the seafloor?
Yep.
So I drove that, right? I drove the big old, 700-foot drill ship with 250 people on board and all that kind of fun stuff. And I like to say that I've perfected a career that I didn't want. It was a great job for a young man. I was 20 years old when I started. And it's no secret that offshore oil field makes a bunch of money, and we had a bunch of time off. So I had 6 months a year and a pocket full of money to go anywhere on the planet I wanted to go, and it was a great time. I met my now wife, and I met her, and the day I met her, I said, I don't want to do this anymore, right? She didn't know it. I knew we were going to get married. She had no idea yet. But I told her that on our first date, and I think I might have scared her a little bit, but it's okay. But I met her and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be home. I want to be able to be with her and go down that life path. And the OPEC decision came out about 8 years ago, and oil prices started to tank. And it took about 2 years to get out to us in what's considered ultra deep water, which is 10,000 feet of water or more. And we ended up getting laid off. And everybody else was obviously very upset about it. And it was the greatest news ever for me, because I was going to have to go to my family and tell them I gave up this very high-paying job for a girl that I wasn't even engaged to, right? So it kind of gave me the excuse of not having to have that conversation. So from there, I went to do a 3 or 4 month stopover in roofing. I had met a guy on a trip to Mexico who owned a roofing company, and he had, promised me the world if I ever wanted to get into sales. And I thought, well, I'll just go do that. My plan was to go back to school and to go to law school. And in that 3 to 4 month stopover, I worked for one guy right off the bat he was a really good guy, and he had really great intentions, but he had very poor execution. And I got to see what happens when good intentions meet poor execution, and ultimately that is the client suffers, right? The homeowner, for no malicious intent at all, gets the short end of the stick. From there, I went to work with another guy, and I got to see what happened when somebody with malicious intention has really good execution, and it's the same outcome. The customer suffers. And I was talking to my wife one day about how upset I was about just those two kind of sides of the coin, and she said, well, if you like it, you enjoy it, and there's money in it, and you're good at it, why don't you be the change that you want to see in the industry? And I'd never thought about owning my own business. I'd never thought about, being
That's
the one.
scary.
No,
you
pun
get out there and
intended,
it's
I
like,
never thought about driving the ship, right? I mean, I just didn't. And after I talked to a couple more people in the roofing industry and saw that a lot of people were doing the same thing, either good intentions, poor execution, or malicious intentions and good execution, I just went, if nobody's doing it the right way, I'll do it myself. And I will say this. Now that I've been in the industry for quite a few years, there are good companies in DFW, right? I'm not saying that I'm the only one. I've been very fortunate to meet some really great ethical business owners who run top-notch companies, but there's not a lot of them. There's not a ton of them.
Well, I'll just point out that they let him drive that ship before they would have even, Enterprise would have let him even rent a car.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
That's
true.
something right there to be said.
Yeah.
Well, I know you said something earlier. When I met my wife years ago, probably more years, 49 years ago I met her. For me,
Congratulations.
love at first sight. For her, she didn't know who I was. Carrying on from there, it took a long time for her to even consider going out with me, because at that time I was very young, aggressive, but she also had to stop the party that I had at my place. I moved in the complex where she was the assistant manager. And the first weekend that I was in there, had a party, and I was over in the adult section. This tells you how old I am. I was in the adult section versus the family section. So I invited everybody in this brand new complex down to the party. Everybody's there. I'd wired this is 50 years ago, I'd wired my transmitter and receiver in where I was running my stereo system into the pool area. Mm-hmm. And I'm blasting so much noise into there, the complex across the street complains. So she had to shut down my party, and it took me 4 months to ever convince her that I was not an idiot. But, we had fun, and that's how we got started. But it was love at first sight. Well, in pursuing on down of how you got started in this, why did you go into the business? What are you doing as far as culture? We talked about giving back. We talked about the committee, the community, what you're doing in the company to bring that committee effort and that community effort into your company, but then going outbound to give others. What are you doing there?
Yeah, so that's a big differentiator for us as well. Because just because somebody's a good salesperson who can bring in revenue doesn't mean they're a good culture fit, right? So one of the things that we like to make sure of on our culture fit is that people want to give back to the community that allows them to make their living, and that's a non-negotiable for us. So we spend a lot of time, money, and energy giving back to the community. So we do a lot with local charities. And again, it's not just cutting a check for us. That's not what it's about. It's about actually donating our time. So you name it, we've got a charity that we work with. So it can be underprivileged youth, abused women and children, veterans, people needing medical devices. I mean, we've got somebody in every arena. And as a matter of fact, this is a good time to talk about it. We're getting ready to roll out what we call our 100% community first guarantee. And what that looks like for us is during the storm restoration process, we're going to give every client that we have the opportunity to donate to a local charity, and then the charity of their choice, whatever they prefer. And in the event that they want to do that, we will match their donation up to a certain dollar amount for every single job. In the event that they don't have a local charity that they want to contribute to, we're still going to donate to one of the charities on our list on every single job. And starting 2022, hopefully, fingers crossed, is when we're going to have everything ready and make it roll it out officially. Our goal is that portions of profits from every single job go back into the local community in some shape or form. So like right now, for instance, we're working with the Boys and Girls Club of Dallas to remodel their e-learning center. We do work with Direction 613 out of McKinney for foster kids aging out. We've given equipment and that sort of thing for them to do projects. Sons of the Flag Foundation, Bird's Eye View Project for wounded veterans. We took a lot of our team last year speaking of culture, we took them skydiving with Navy SEALs. A lot of that kind of stuff, night vision, hog hunting, all that kind of really fun stuff, but that still gives a way to give back. We do a lot of work with Creek and Timber Foundation, which is also for wounded veterans. So we'll take veterans out and take them hunting and fishing, duck hunting, all that sort of thing, and we just really make sure that those guys specifically have a place where they can get out and just be themselves, judgment free. Get out, smoke cigars, have a good time, throw on some night vision goggles, and go run around the fields and act like a bunch of goofballs, and it's really rewarding.
Well, that's outstanding. One of the
Sounds
big
like
things.
one of your parties.
Yeah, well,
Your wife would shut
pretty
down,
much.
yeah.
My wife would probably say that. I have toned down a little bit from that. We talked about earlier the opportunities of discounts, things of that nature, from our situation to where we drive our vehicles and probably both have lost our discounts as a result of having
Absolutely.
these discounting
10 lifetimes over.
lifetimes over. And coming into a closing idea here, gratitude is something very major for me. Mm-hmm. I'm very grateful for all of the things that God has given me, my family, the blessings that He's given me. And with that grateful humility, paying it forward nature, I've heard many things that you've said, but what are you most grateful for?
Next to Stephen, I would say opportunity. I would say opportunity. My parents immigrated to the United States in the 80s. I'm a first generation American, and I am a firm believer that this is the land of opportunity. I think that there is a very good possibility that I could have been successful, or at a minimum moderately successful, anywhere. But I don't think that I would have had the opportunities had my parents not moved to the United States. So I would say that that's at the very top of the list. Second to only my wife. I mean, my wife is she's incredible. So yeah, I'm
Also a smart answer.
No, she's
I'd be in trouble if I didn't put wife first.
Yep.
And then the business. So you may be in trouble.
She's in the number. I said next to. She's the number one spot.
Okay.
No,
next to her being. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Just want to make sure there.
She's incredible. She's the greatest partner I could have ever asked for. I mean, she's absolutely
She
incredible.
got you off the big boat.
She got me off the big boat.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, again, Paul Whitley, CEO Talks. We appreciate you coming in and listening to us today. And Chris, Stephen, Gilfowl, Gilfo, Gil, what was, no,
Just don't call me late for dinner. We'll call it good.
we got it. Appreciate you guys being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.